Alright, family moves into a new house where they end up being haunted by an unknown entity. Meanwhile this happens, we're actually watching the entire thing go down from the POV of this entity. Genius. How could you fuck that up? Well, so this is the second time nearly in a row now where my most anticipated movie of the year has been a haunted house story, supposedly the scariest film of the year, coming out in January with the tagline, "In this house." No more. I'm done. Also, yes, I am recording this from a hotel. I was very grateful to attend a screening of this film, which was about an hour and a half away from home. This was my most anticipated film of the year. It does not come out for another week. There was absolutely no way I was going to miss this. So, I've been buzzing about this film for a while now, and rightfully so. It's the next film from director Steven Soderbergh. It's the next film from the studio behind Longlegs, Neon. It's the next horror film from both of those pockets. Finally closing all this out with what might be the most interesting ghost story haunted house movie I've ever heard. All coming together for a tight 85-minute runtime. Again, how could you possibly fuck this up? Well, let's talk about presents. So what I'll say is that instantly, first shot, you see this haunt's perspective, and you do immediately want to know what the full story is. You get a sense of tragedy, sadness. It's in the score, the tone, the presence, and I think it's because of the unique perspective. What does an entity see? How does it live? I don't think is the appropriate word. Nah, exist ain't the right word either. But you get where I'm getting at. It's just a mystery of all the questions and the potential that this full product could have that had me anticipating. But I am gonna say it. We all saw the trailers, and with the studio and how cryptic it was with the marketing, I just expected more as far as reveals. And I mean that in the sense of something like the film following the presence itself entirely. I wish they did more with that. With the film's cinematography, it's understandable. I think that this feels like a lot of long shots and a lot of long takes. With this following a family that just moved into a new house, this is a very slow film. And that, along with the short runtime, I was a little concerned as far as what I'd fully get out of the film. But I will give the film this. As soon as I got this fear, this feeling, the movie started to pick up as far as pace, effects, that had me thinking, okay, this is officially what people are gonna want out of this, as far as some arc with this presence and its arc with this family. And for a moment there was delivering as far as something new and exciting and actually worthy of doing a story and film in this presentation, and even as a fan of those of classic haunting movies. And going back to the feeling I had following this presence, what's really unique and something I think people should try and pay close attention to is its pacing as you're following it, when a character reacts to something and like just the way it just trails behind. It kind of reminded me of like an innocent child who's just attracted to sound and movement, that whenever something happens in the slightest, like everything is new and exciting to it. So you just see the presence itself just going at the speed of light, just following someone down a hallway when they hear like a commotion downstairs. Kind of remind me of like a really riled up dog. I was not expecting to get attached in this way to an unseen, unalive, completely noiseless entity, but it all makes you think, well, they must have something coming with this. I also wasn't sure if I should have expected this, but I was pleased to see that the family that moves into this house, it isn't just, oh, family moves into new house is haunted, they're fucked. No, why they're here, and observing through all these people the whole time they're home, hearing their personal story laid out, seeing all the moments of people in their own private space, in the comfort of their home, that created even more tension as far as what this entity may have in store eventually, or even more so, what or who is behind it. What it may be thinking, seeing all that it has with this family, it just created a lot of unpredictability for the film going forward. I will say though, following a storyline like these people moving into this new house, I feel like you don't have to do too much with that if you're following just the POV of a haunt terrorizing them. I feel like that's what people are gonna want. That's obviously where the action and the main attraction of the film lies, is that we're following this unknown entity that's attached to a house that a family moves into. It starts terrorizing them, and somehow maybe they start uncovering some secrets behind it, and that's the big goal, that's the big drive of the film. And because of that, I respected that they tried with the family, And it does make for some interesting directions, and it does have some potential with that. But it ultimately does make the film feel convoluted, messy, because again, this is just such a short runtime with already so much mystery and questions, and now we're getting actually the most, if not all of the writing and story focusing on this family. And not just that, but the only things we're seeing is what they share at home as far as conversations, emotions, etc. So it does make the film feel very limited, and there's also just so much characters and so limited room to write their arcs that it feels like we're trying to resonate and sympathize with the characters, because it feels so forced that we end up feeling forced trying to get attached to them. And I'm not saying their story isn't interesting, it is, but the reason why people are going to see this movie and what they're going to want out of it and expect, and even all the potential that the film had with those things alone outside of these things that I didn't expect, that is all pushed way off to the side and is traded off for this focus instead, which should have been what was toned down so much instead of everything else. And toward the endish part of the film, getting there, we do start to see more actual interaction or character presence with the entity again, which was nice, but at that point it just kind of felt like it was partially because the movie was getting to the end, and this is that classic indie experimental horror film that casual audiences will likely be pretty disappointed with it, and it was that classic case of, well, we gotta give them something. And I just kind of had a feeling of like, hey, there you are, where you been? We've been looking all over for you. It kind of feels like it wanted to be A24's A Ghost Story marketed as a horror film, but didn't really have much else going for it, which is shocking. And just throughout the film, following this family, I feel like we got the bare minimum to make out what their story is. The story, or what is supposed to be the main focus here, bits and pieces of it are just kind of scattered here and there and dropped without warning, and in between there otherwise we're just watching people at home. I mean, for the most part, there is one character that's completely different than everyone else, and their arc is a completely different shift from the rest of the film entirely, and that always had me thinking, if this presence is going to reveal something, you know, its true natures, power, intentions, if we're going to get any action with that, it better deliver there. And even this other character in Shift, I'm like, you had to fall on that as a storyline to get any of those things, any of that potential that sounded so in the bag for this film. I just couldn't help but feel pretty disappointed in the final product. And overall, I am going to give Presence a mixed review. There is like a whoa, hello performance from Lucy Liu at the end to close out the film, though. That was kind of nice. But man, for my most anticipated film of the year, and again, for it to be my most anticipated film about a haunted house in January, I'm just like, this is not a good track record so far. But yes, this film does not come out for another week. I don't think it was a bad film in the end. I just found the final product, compared to how much potential the film had going for it, to be very questionable. But when you guys do see this film next week, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. This is definitely one I would love to hear a lot of opinions on. But yes, guys, that is going to do it for my early review of Presence. Thank you guys so much for checking out this review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys are having a safe day, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video very soon. Take care.